Hello, my dear viewers. This amazing story will be very instructive for you. It is very interesting and beautiful. I wish you enjoy watching it. It was an ordinary weekend, a beautiful summer day. The Green family was having breakfast on the summer terrace of their small but very comfortable and well-appointed mansion. The head of the family, Charles Green, was drinking fragrant custard coffee with smoky, lush cheesecakes and reading the latest press. The landlady, Susan, was eating oatmeal with milk, and their beloved daughter, 20-year-old Kathy, was drinking apple juice and picking sluggishly at her plate with her spoon. The mother looked at her child. She did not like the frowning face and dark circles under her eyes, and she began to admonish her. "Katie, you better eat something in the morning. You're only drinking juice. You're so skinny you've been dieting like a bluebird. It's not long before you get sick. Take a cheesecake, a couple of spoonfuls of porridge." The girl snorted. "Mum, why are you treating me like a little girl? I'm a grown-up. I got a wedding coming up. I won't have your oatmeal with butter and milk, or I won't fit into my dress. God forbid Clinton should fall out of love. He only likes skinny girls." Susan spluttered her hands. "Oh, daughter, you're head over heels in love with your Clinton, and you don't notice a thing. You shouldn't be in such a hurry to get married. You've only been dating for 3 months. How long is that?" "Your father and I have been together since high school." Kathy grimaced. "Oh, Mom, don't start your record. I've heard it 100 times. It's boring, all these years of dating. You can get bored of each other 100 times. Clinton, I have a very handsome, famous actor, Bradley Cooper looks like, is engaged in the creative business, so I'm very lucky. All the girls in my class are jealous." This is not a snotty classmate, but a businessman. The woman became angry. "Katie, listen to me for once. Your father's in business too, and it's plain and simple. He sells equipment for office firms. It's all white, knuckle, no bullshit. What does your fiancé do? Exactly what does he do? Tell me. It's all so slippery and unclear. It's all tinsel. He bullshits people with some nonsense, and those stupid people pay him money for it." Katie tearfully parried. "You just don't understand anything. He conducts trainings and coaching, helps people find themselves in life, improve their self-esteem. He has a full room every week. And by the way, the rich also go to intensives. He also deals in cryptocurrency trading. This is so popular and promising right now. You live in a world of advanced technology, and you use old standards to measure everything. For you, business is selling tomatoes at the market. No one makes money that way anymore. Dad, at least tell Mom." Charles Green looked lovingly at his dear ladies and said peacefully, "Girls don't fight, Susan. Why are you picking on the kid? I personally like Clinton very much. Literate, tenacious, aware of the latest trends. Now everything really has changed a lot. Young people know how to make money very differently. Judging by his car and clothes, he certainly does not live on the last money. Kathy loves him, so let them get married." Susan stopped talking and pursed her lips and thought to herself, "Well, I'll figure out a way to test you anyway, son-in-law." After breakfast, the daughter went out on a date. Katie was crazy about her fiancé. Clinton was courting so beautifully, always coming up with something interesting. Today, for instance, they had arranged to go to the country beach to swim and sunbathe. Katie had thrown a towel, sunscreen, and sunglasses into her beach bag, and she didn't even know it was there. But when Clinton brought her in, she just gasped. The guy had set up a paradise. He spread out a blanket, got ice, cold drinks, and fruit from a basket, and even ice cream. From the trunk, there was a huge inflatable 2-seat circle with special pockets for glasses made on the sides, and the couple took cocktails and swam on the river. It was so romantic. A splash of refreshingly cool water, a breeze, her lover by her side. Katie was just so happy. It seemed to her it would always be like this, easy and fabulous. It couldn't have been any other way because they were young. They loved each other, and they had their whole lives ahead of them. Susan and her husband stayed home that day. Charles Green didn't often get a day off from his busy job, and the couple treasured every minute they spent together. They sat on the terrace hugging each other for a long time, reminiscing about their adolescent and high school years. And there was a lot to remember because Katie's parents had been inseparable her whole life, ever since high school. Susan had grown up in a poor family, her father a labor teacher and her mother a janitor in a roadside cafe. Both were paid a pittance, barely enough to live on. My mother wore the same old worn-out coat and worn-out boots for 10 years, and my father saved money on everything. The table was almost always covered with fried potatoes, macaroni and pickles and sausages and delicacies, only on major holidays. But my parents were good non-drinkers, and my mother occasionally took on some part-time jobs, getting by as best she could. Papa and Mama were always saving money on themselves, but they tried to buy their only daughter even cheap things, but new, so that she would not be worse than others. Her mother was a good sewer, and if she could buy a cheap piece of fabric, Susan would often run around during the summer in sundresses and dresses of her own making. The daughter loved her parents and tried to be less naughty and ask for toys and upgrades. She understood it was not easy for them. The girl saw how hard their family is surviving, and for himself made a conclusion very early on that she will be an excellent student, get a good profession, and go necessarily in the capital, and never repeat the fate of his parents. This became her goal, and she had been stubbornly pursuing it since the first grade. That is why she pleased her parents with marks and diplomas. The girl studied well and was the pride of the school. She was always held up as an example by her teachers, but was disliked by her peers, who considered her a nerd and a nerd. There was another outcast in the class, a boy named Charles. He came from a dysfunctional family, raised by an elderly grandmother, and his grieving parents were always out drinking. They did not care at all where their son was, whether he ate. The only task was to find a bottle of cheap vodka and get drunk. That is why the child was a battered child, wore clothes from someone else's shoulder, and could barely keep up with his studies. He was endlessly bullied by boys, teased as a starving kid, and even mocked because the boy had a bad accent and even his name, Charles, could not properly pronounce. When the teacher called the boy to the blackboard, there was immediate laughter and shouting in the classroom. "Oh, it's about to start. Green, you spit everything out of your mouth and then answer, or you'll get abracadabra again," because of the constant bullying. Charles was silent and withdrawn, communicating with almost no one. He often skipped and ran away from classes. One day, Susan's homeroom teacher, Olivia Collins, came up to her at recess and asked, "Susan, you're a smart girl, a head girl, an excellent student. I have a big favor to ask of you. I want you to bail out Charles Green. You see, he's got potential. I feel he could be a good student. But as you can see, nobody's taking care of him. They're hurting him. Maybe you can pull him up a little bit, or I'm afraid he won't even pass his exams. He'll have to repeat the second year. I feel sorry for the kid." The girl was not thrilled with such an offer. She did not want to deal with this pimply, silent boy. But as a responsible and executive person, she could not refuse the teacher and promised to help. That same day, she came up to the boy after school and said businesslike, "All right, Charles. Olivia Collins told me to tutor you in literature and math, so whether you want to or not, come to my house and study. Anything I can do to help. Otherwise, you'll end up in second year to the delight of your bullies." The boy looked at her so intently and asked quietly, "If you don't tease me, let's go." And so they became friends. Susan was so active in her work that by the end of the year, Charles was an A student instead of a D student, which surprised everyone. It turned out he was a smart and bright guy, just very shy of his speech, defect and poverty. But Susan persuaded him to find it too. "You, Charles, don't give up. I brought special literature I found in the library. We'll do special exercises with you to correct the speech. What if it helps? And in general, do not be afraid of this baker. He only looks so formidable, but he's just a fat guy. I don't care if you can beat him or not, just don't give up. Show him you're not afraid and kick his ass. You're a tough guy. We'll think of something to wear, too. We don't have much money in the family either, but my mother sews very well. If you can get a piece of fabric, she can make you a couple of shirts just as good as the ones you buy, and we can find you some shoes at a sale on the weekend. I'm getting by. As you can see, I don't dress in boutiques either. The boy suddenly took her hand and looked at her warmly. Thank you, Susan. You're my only true friend. You're the only one who understands me. You're not ashamed of me. You look after me. You look after me. Even my parents haven't needed me for ages. It's such a shame. And Grandma's just old. She can't carry me on her own. I wish they hadn't given birth at all. The girl cheered up her friend. Never mind. Don't get sour. School will be over soon. Let's go to college together. It's easier that way. I don't really get along with my girlfriends either. I know they think I'm a drag. What should I talk to them about? About fancy clothes, about jammy jeans I don't have. Or about where one of them was vacationing while I was in the field with my mom picking strawberries to help my family. They'll make fun of me. But with you, it's so easy and calm. You're just like me. I've seen you run out in the evenings to load boxes at the market to make some money. We're the same, you and me. That's why we have to stick together. I try to be humorous about everything. I didn't go to the sea this year either. It's no big deal. But the tan was just as good. So you spit on all of them and believe in yourself. We'll get through it. Thanks to Susan's care and attention, the boy became a lot less of a fake and managed to fight back against the bully Drozdov. He overcame his fear and grabbed the bullied teen by the scruff of the neck while shouting loudly, "If you ever touch me or Susan again, I'll beat you up. Understand?" He was even taken aback, but he got quiet. And most importantly, Charles finished school with no C's at all, and in literature and math and physics, he got straight A's. He could easily crack any equations and problem. Now the classmates just chuckled after Susan and Charles, whispering, "The bride and groom, sweet couple, found each other, the two nerds." But the boys paid no attention to this and persevered toward their goal. Her parents had grown accustomed to Charles over the years and considered him their own. Despite the difficult financial situation, they didn't feel sorry for a bowl of soup or a portion of potatoes, and he never left their family hungry. On the contrary, Kathy's mother encouraged and praised the boy for his academic success, and she understood how important it was to him because his grieving parents did not care about their son's fate, and her father was quiet about his daughter, not wandering anywhere at night, always under supervision, so Charles was always welcome. Then there was university. It was hard to study in a big city without support. Other children's parents brought them money and heavy bags of food, but nothing for them. It was during this period that Charles developed a commercial flair. The guy wanted to help his girlfriend and now his fiancée to make her life easier, so much so that he took up haggling. On weekends, he would go to a wholesale market at night, buy packs of the most popular goods among young people, and then sell them at a higher price than at retail. It wasn't much, but he and Susan had enough for food and clothes. The girl also did not sleep and engaged in tutoring, writing essays and tests for a small fee for the students failing, and also became very fond of the theater club. She loved making up and participating in student plays and concerts. It was her favorite hobby, an outlet, a girl completely dissolved in the chosen image. So she and Charles went hand in hand, not parting for a moment. They married modestly after receiving the coveted diploma. It was their common victory. After university, they first lived in the family dormitory for a long time. Charles went into business. It began to work. Over time, they bought first an apartment and then a house, a car, and raised their daughter. Susan gave herself completely to the family. Only for the soul was still engaged in tutoring. Kathy grew up smart and bright, did well in school, and went to a prestigious university on her own. Her parents loved their daughter very much and couldn't get a common inner world for two, from the school bench to the present day. It was the first time she and her husband had ever had such a radical difference of opinion when it came to her daughter's marriage. Susan herself did not understand why she disliked her future son in-law so much, but she did not like him right away. Clinton did not look her in the eye. He was clearly evasive, and her daughter was like a pea-terrier in her eyes. But she is okay, silly in love, and her husband is also good. He sided with his daughter and was preparing with her for the wedding, already looked for a restaurant and discussed the menu. For some reason, he saw Clinton as his successor, and he expected that his son-in-law would gradually get into his business and continue his work. But Susan decided not to give up so easily. It was not in her nature. And she took up the cause, especially since time was running out. The wedding was only a month away. The woman got a makeup, a wig with black long hair, green contact lenses, a special mouthpiece, which is inserted into the mouth and completely changes the person's face and his speech, bought a long, colorful hoodie from a friend in a theater studio. 3 hours of work, and in front of the mirror, instead of well-groomed russet, 45-year-old lady was an old fortune teller. Susan took a long search on the internet legal address of the company, which allegedly worked Clinton. It was also called, mysteriously, the way to go. But there, too, everything was shrouded in mystery. All of their intensives and trainings were held in various rented offices in the city, and the address of the firm itself was in an industrial area on the outskirts. Susan drove there with determination, having made up a story along the way about how bad she felt, that she needed to improve her self-esteem, and so on. All the services were paid for, and she had to bring a considerable amount of money with her. The whole thing sounded more like a scam than any kind of serious organization. The woman in makeup was just walking down the hall when she saw a cheerful, radiant girl about Kathy's age in an ultra. Short dress emerged from the office, followed by a happy Clinton. They embraced and kissed passionately, cooing about their own things and not noticing anyone or anything around them. Clinton whispered words of love to her, and the young mistress laughed and molested. The blood rushed to Susan's head. "You bastard. You're cheating on my daughter, aren't you?" What a scoundrel. He's about to get married, and he's playing around. Wait for me. So that's what my son-in-law is doing at work, ostensibly passing by and deliberately shuffling her feet, as elderly people usually do. Susan suddenly stopped and, looking Clinton in the eyes, hoarsely said, "Hello, my dear man. I see some great happiness awaits you. You've got an interesting destiny. Let me tell you a fortune. You won't regret it. What wills, what will be, you'll find out." Clinton was taken aback. "Who are you, and who are you here to see? And how did you get here in the first place?" Susan answered confidently, "I am a seer, Agnes. Haven't you heard? So I decided to sign up for your training because I help others. I give all of myself. But I have nothing in my life, completely empty-handed. Maybe you can help me. In what way?" "I heard they praise your company. People find the meaning of life. They say your specialists are great. So what? You want to know what's in store for you. I won't even take any money. So I'll tell you everything, just like that." Clinton was interested, especially since the girl next to her was looking at everything that was going on, eyes wide open and with obvious interest, and waved his hand. "Come on. Even though I don't believe in all this fortune-telling, I wonder what you're going to tell me. At least I'll have some fun." The woman could barely contain herself. She was as furious as a tigress and thought, "Oh, you're going to have so much fun." Susan took his hand. She rolled her eyes as she was supposed to, remained silent for a long time, then suddenly declared, "You're getting married soon, but not to this girl, but to another girl. Her name is Kathy. She's rich, her parents are loaded, and you've already got a restaurant booked. Kathy loves you very much. But she's not your destiny. You don't want her, you'll never be happy. That's what I see." Clinton changed his face and shouted, "Who are you, old woman? And how do you know all this?" The guy suddenly looked at the fortune teller in a bad way. Her image seemed somehow subtly familiar to him, and he pounced on the woman and tore the wig off her head. Susan spat the mouthpiece out of her mouth and threw off her hot robe, triumphantly declaring, "So I got you son-in-law. Not only is your company fake, I checked everything. You're just cheating people out of money. So you're also cheating on my daughter with that girl. Have you lost your conscience?" The girl standing next to him burst into tears and slapped Clinton across the face with a loud slap. "You bastard. So he sings to me every day about love, but he's marrying someone else. I'll make you pay for everything. I know better than anyone that all these trainings are just a scam, and now everyone will know about it. I'll do my best. That'll teach you how to mess with girls' heads," and she ran away crying. Clinton remained ashamedly silent, rubbed his flaming cheek, and began to make sluggish excuses. You've got it all wrong. I love Katie, honestly. And this is so not serious. I'm so sorry." Susan told him stiffly, "Get out of our lives. There's not going to be a wedding, okay? And you can tell Katie all about it, and don't lie to me. I don't want to see you. You're lucky I haven't reported you for your sordid dealings." There was nothing to do. Clinton had to confess to Kathy about the affair, and the wedding was off. The daughter loved Clinton, but she could not forgive such a betrayal. It was disgusting. After all, if even before the wedding loved one cheats and sleeps with another, then what happens next? How can you start to build a family if you no longer trust a man? Kathy was very worried. Long could not come to her senses after such a betrayal. After all, she had dreamed of a strong and close-knit family, like her parents, to go through life together hand in hand. But time is the best healer, and after graduation, the girl got a job at a good private company as an economist. It was there a year later that she found her true love. Robert was her boss. From day one, he had had a soft spot for Katie, but he had not dared to tell her or even hint at it for a long time. He saw Kathy immediately put a stop to any attempts by male employees to get to know each other. The girl was always thoughtful and sad, but very responsible and diligent. Robert was 10 years older than Kathy. He had inherited the business from his father, and he managed it skillfully, but the man's personal life was not going well. He kept dreaming of finding someone like his mother who could do the housework and was a friend and sweetheart. But, as luck would have it, only greedy and money. Grubbing minxes turned up, and all they knew was that they demanded gifts and restaurants. As the years passed, his parents passed away, and Robert lived all alone in the huge mansion, apart from the maid who came and Simon the fluffy cat. Sometimes he didn't want to go home. No one was waiting for him there, but Katie turned everything upside down in the man's soul. It was her serious, always a little sad, gray eyes that deeply fell into his soul. Every time she brought him reports to sign, his heart sank. He couldn't even breathe. This had never happened to Robert before. He would probably never have dared to approach the unapproachable beauty if it were not for one incident. Robert was suddenly very sick, coming down with a terrible sore throat. He didn't even have the strength to go get medicine. All he did was call the hospital and have a doctor come to the house, and that was it. His fever was running high, and his whole body was aching. At the end of the day, the secretary, Lucy, came into the office and asked loudly, "Girls, our director is sick. He won't be in for a while. Which of you can go to his house and take the documents to sign? Of course, it's my responsibility, but I have to pick up my kid from daycare. Help me out, will you?" And then the always silent Kathy suddenly said quietly, "I can do it. I'm on my way anyway. Come on, I'll pick you up. I'll take you to the address." Kathy didn't know why she had volunteered to help. She just felt like it. That's all. It wasn't her way at all. She lied and had to drive across town to the country mansion. In fact, Robert Harris was very likable to Kathy, not just as a boss. He was fair, balanced, did not allow himself to snap at the staff, and was respectful even to the cleaning lady. He called her exclusively the cleanliness fairy. And so after learning about the boss's illness, a girl really wanted to check on him and, if necessary, help. Kathy took a cab to the principal's house. The mansion was impressive in size and very well maintained. She rang the doorbell, knocked. No one was there. She began to call on the phone, also silent. Not at all worried, Katie pushed the massive door and it gave way. The girl entered. She started walking through the rooms and screaming, "Robert Harris, where are you?" It was me, Kathy Green, who brought the documents for you to sign on Lucy's behalf. But no one answered her. Suddenly, Katie heard a faint moan. She rushed to the second floor. In the bedroom, sprawled out on a huge bed, the director was lying wet and delirious. He was clearly delirious, and there were pills and potions on the bedside table. Frightened Kathy touched her forehead. It was glowing. The girl made him compresses of vinegar and water, as her mother had done when she was a child. Wiped his whole body, stripped Robert down to his underwear, found an antipyretic mixture, and literally, forcibly, poured it into his mouth. 3 hours later, again. She couldn't leave her boss in that condition, so she called her mother, explained the situation, and she sent her house doctor to Robert's address. The doctor examined the man, diagnosed him, injected him with antibiotics and antipyretics, and left, prescribing a treatment regimen. He assured me that in a couple of hours the patient would definitely feel better. Kathy stayed behind to watch the director at his house. In the morning, Robert finally felt better. He woke up and he couldn't believe his eyes. In the chair beside his bed, Katie was dozing, her face anxious and worried. And yet all this time he had thought that Kathy talking to him was just a dream. Robert could barely speak, the infernal pain in his throat and lungs preventing him from doing so. "Katie, oh honey, how are you here? What a miracle! It's the happiest thing I ever dreamed of." The girl immediately perked up. "Oh, you're awake. Oh, thank God, Lucy. The secretary sent me to you yesterday to sign some documents. I came in and you were unconscious. I was so scared. I called my mother and she sent our family doctor. He calmed me down and told me to keep an eye on you until you get better. So I'm watching over your sleep. Well, since you're feeling better, I guess I'll be going. Yes, there's some chicken soup in the kitchen. Make sure you have some hot soup. And here's the doctor's prescription for you. If you want, I can run out and get some." Robert couldn't get enough of Kathy. "Thank you, Kathy. You're a lifesaver. Mind you, I won't eat soup without you. So let's go to breakfast together." Kathy was embarrassed but agreed. She did feel a beastly hunger after all she'd been through. The young people ate together, chatted nicely, and switched to first-name terms. As they were leaving, Katie timidly said, "Well, do you want me to come back tomorrow after work?" Robert happily replied, "I wish you would never leave this house and become its mistress. I like you a lot, Kathy, so I'll be waiting." And so their relationship took a turn. Robert was nothing like the passionate and ardent Clinton. He reeked of strength, confidence, and serenity, truly like a stone wall. They were married a year later, and Kathy went to live with her husband in his country house. A short time later, Katie realized she was pregnant. Spouse and parents unspeakably happy because for a long time dreamed of grandchildren, and the woman was even a little scared when she learned that it would be twins. But she had no complications during the pregnancy, and she survived it safely to the end. Except that her legs were swollen, and she could hardly see anything because of her huge belly. Time of delivery was approaching. Robert, as a responsible father, had made all the necessary arrangements, and at the elite maternity hospital, Katie had a private room waiting for her, and a leading professor in obstetrics was due to arrive on the phone to deliver the baby. The man had already fitted out the nursery, bought a fancy, expensive stroller and a wonderful bassinet, and the necessary diapers for the first time. Robert was no longer at work and flew home, massaging his wife's feet and stroking her belly in an effort to relieve her. But then, as bad luck would have it, her husband had to leave on an urgent business trip to another city for a couple of days. There was a very profitable deal promising a lot of income in the case of its successful signing. The director could not trust such a thing to anybody and decided to go himself. Robert was terribly worried. "Katie, honey, why don't you go to the hospital today as a precaution? I know it's 3 weeks away, but still. It's winter. I won't be around. How can you be alone? There's a TV in the room and a shower, and medics are on duty 24 hours a day. I will be so calm. Moreover, we will have 2 children. It's not an easy case." My wife hugged her husband affectionately, barely reaching him because of his huge belly, and calmed him down. "Don't worry. Everything will be fine. I feel fine. My stomach does not hurt. I'm eating for 3. I'm about to burst like a balloon. You'll be back the day after tomorrow. I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm so happy at home. I'll watch my favorite movies and sleep on my favorite couch. You know how difficult it is for me to find a comfortable position so the kids do not arrange a disco inside. Besides, tomorrow my mom promised to come to me, if anything, and stay overnight. So go and solve your problems. I left sandwiches and coffee in the kitchen. Take them with you. If you get hungry on the road, you can have a bite to eat." Robert knelt down, kissed his belly, put his ear to it and whispered, "Bye, my babies. Daddy will be home soon. Stay there quietly." Kathy laughed, so moved by her husband's touching concern. She saw him off and decided to rest. She lay back on the pillows and turned on the melodrama, but then the phone rang. It was a friend from university, Terry. Katie was delighted with the unexpected call, and the women chirped on and on. Terry wondered, "Wow, you're doing great. You got married well, and you're about to have twins. Not like your ex, Clinton." Something stirred in Kathy's soul. What about him? I haven't even seen him on the street since we broke up. Terry was in a hurry to share the news, so his firm burst like a bubble, and Clinton was dragged through the courts as well. At one time he even drank himself to death, but then he pulled himself together. He got a job driving a regular van, delivering mail around town, living with his sick mother. She has a heart condition. They say she needs an operation, and there's no money. That's the way it is. Well, who's to blame? You've ruined your own life. You shouldn't have run away. For some reason, Katie became sad. It's like that. But I still feel sorry for him. First love is the strongest, no matter how you look at it. All right, Terry. It was nice to hear from you. Bye. Bye. Kathy got up, went to the window and gasped. An hour ago, it had been quiet and sunny, and now there was a terrible blizzard and no visibility. How is my beloved? Oh, God, I wish he'd get there all right. God, I wish he'd get there all right. God, I wish he'd get there all right. The woman prayed to heaven. She grabbed the phone and began frantically dialing her husband. It was important for her to hear his voice, to be reassured when she realized that he was okay. But all she heard was, "The caller is unavailable." Kathy became even more nervous, pacing back and forth across the room. She was already on edge because it was the road, and what a blizzard it was. All these anxious thoughts made her feel sick to her stomach, and it was hard to breathe. Her back was aching heavily, and she was going into contractions. And then suddenly something warm ran down her legs. The frightened woman realized her water had broken. She called her husband again and again, but he was still unavailable. Katie panicked and called her mother. She screamed in a voice not her own. "Mommy, my water broke. I'm in labor. And Robert just left on a business trip 2 hours ago. I can't get him on the phone. Apparently there's no connection on the road. He begged me to go to the hospital today, as if he felt it. And I was such a fool not to listen. Mom, I'm scared. What should I do?" Susan tried her best to comfort her daughter, while her own heart went in her heels. Don't panic. I'm calling an ambulance. The paramedics will be here soon. Then she dialed her daughter again. The ambulance is coming. Pull yourself together. How are you feeling? Are you having a lot of contractions? Daddy and I are on our way too. Maybe we can get there quicker. Hold on. Breathe deep. We're right here. You're going to be okay. Get the map and all the paperwork ready so you have everything handy. Kathy sobbed in fear and pain and wailed, Mommy, come quickly. I'm scared. I'm not gonna die. Did you see the blizzard out there? What if the ambulance doesn't make it? Oh. It hurts so bad. Susan was rushing around the house and screaming at her husband. Charles, hurry up and start the car. Kathy's in labor, and Robert's on a business trip. Let's go right now. I already called an ambulance. The man jumped out of his seat like a jet plane and rushed without further ado to the garage. But when he saw what was going on outside, he ran back into the house. I'm afraid we can't go any farther than the yard. There's a terrible blizzard out there. Oh my God, it's one and the same. We've got to do something. The woman hastily got dressed and ran to the courtyard, where it was so snowy that she couldn't see anything within a meter. She grabbed a huge shovel and began frantically shoveling snow. So I'll clear the way myself. I'll walk. But I'll help my daughter. Help. There's no time to argue. My daughter is in trouble. It's all my fault. We should have put our daughter in a maternity hospital with Robert, or at least come and see her today instead of tomorrow. At least she wouldn't be alone. They cheerfully shoveled the snow off the property with 4 hands and hit the road with their shovels, realizing that they would obviously need them more than once. Meanwhile, Katie was writhing in pain, praying to God that the ambulance crew would be there in time to get her to the hospital. Finally, she heard the car honking outside the window, got dressed and crawled to the door, writhing in pain. She let the paramedics into the house and collapsed on the steps. Oh, Mommy. It hurts. Help me, I'm dying. The paramedic was not confused, ran up to the woman in labor, and with an orderly carried her to the bed. He laid a blanket on the bed. He began to calm her down. Take it easy, take it easy. What's your name? How many full years? How far along are you? How often are your contractions? When did your water break? Don't panic, I'm here to help you. Don't panic, I'm here to help you. Everything will be fine. Breathe out. Okay. And now calmly answer my questions. Kathy came to her senses a little and began to explain everything in detail. The doctor examined her and shook his head. Tax, it's 4 fingers open. The labor is in full swing. We'll give birth here, we won't make it. That's for sure. Why did you wait till last, my dear? You should have been in the hospital a long time ago. Seeing the laboring woman's goggling eyes, almost mad, he began to calm her down again. I repeat, everything is going according to plan. You have no complications. Just listen to me, don't get hysterical, and together we'll manage. Okay, Madeline, Patrick, get everything ready and get your suitcase. Kathy, where can we get clean sheets and boiled water? Well, don't cry. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Exhale, exhale again. That's it. Hold my hand. Think about the fact that it's not easy for the babies now either. You helped them come into the world. That's a good go. Okay, now again, in, out, and push. Surprisingly, all went well. And within an hour, Kathy had 2 babies, a boy and a girl. One after the other, a couple of minutes apart. One cried out at once, but the other took a long time for the doctor to work on him, pumping something out, spitting, shaking, rubbing, and finally the baby squeaked weakly. But he did. Paramedic breathed out. Hugh, you scared me, baby. Katie, stop crying. It's okay. You had the baby. The babies are alive and well. It's true your boy is a little weak. You have to go to the hospital anyway, and you will still be under supervision there. And I did what I could. So, where are the diapers and baby stuff? Do you have any? Kathy grabbed the paramedic's arm. Thank you. Thank you very much humanly. I don't know how to thank you. You're just my savior. If it weren't for you, I have everything ready for the little ones over there in the drawer of the dresser. Take everything. There's a blizzard outside, so get them dressed warm. The phone rang, and Robert was on the line. Katie, oh honey, what's the matter? The connection on the road is terrible. How are you? So many missed calls from you. Kathy sobbed again. I gave birth, a boy and a girl. I went into labor at home, prematurely. Thank God the ambulance crew made it in time. Their paramedic, Andrew Harris, delivered the baby. Now they're taking me to the maternity hospital. Robert almost shouted, "Oh my God, I told you to lie down beforehand. I should have been the one to put you in the ward instead of listening to you. Hold on, I'm dropping everything and heading back out. Honey, I'll be with you tomorrow." To hell with it. Thank you, honey, for the kids. I just can't get over the fact that I'm a daddy. Put the medic on the phone. I'll tell him where to take you. I've made arrangements. They're waiting for you. Kathy was carried on a stretcher into the ambulance, and they drove off. The nurse held kids, and Katie finally calmed down a little. That's it. The worst is over. She can breathe out. Now she and the children will be placed in a comfortable room. Her son will be examined. Now everything will be fine. Immediately, my mother called, "Daughter, how are you? Where? I've been calling you. I can't reach you. I'm busy. I'm going crazy. My father and I are digging out. We can't get to the track. There's a lot going on here. I don't know how we're going to get out of town." Katie responded, "Mommy, I already had a baby. You're a grandmother, and congratulate Grandpa. The ambulance paramedic delivered the baby. They're taking me to the hospital with the babies. My son is weak, so go with Daddy right there. Write down the address." Susan wiped the snow falling on her face with her hand and sobbed so loudly that Charles was scared to death and dropped the shovel, assuming something awful. "What is it? Tell me, what's with Katie?" The woman rushed to her husband and threw him in the snow. "Birth of a daughter. You're a grandfather, thank God. A boy and a girl." Said the girl is fine, but the son is weak. They're taking her to the maternity hospital in an ambulance, thank God. It's all over. Let's go to the maternity hospital. Hurry, they're taking her there. Charles could not contain his joy. He squeezed his wife so tightly until she crunched and began to kiss. Kiss, kiss. Crazy. Just yesterday, it seems, he was a student himself. And now a grandfather. 2 grandchildren at once. My poor daughter. I can't even imagine how she could stand it all by herself. But as it turned out, it was too soon to rejoice. And Katie was in for a challenge. The ambulance got stuck in the snow on the way because the roads were not cleared. At first, they spent an hour trying to pull the car out with their own strength. The driver and the paramedics were soaking wet and damn tired. But the wheels only got bogged down deeper and harder. We had to turn off the engine as it was already overheating. The driver tried to contact dispatch to report the emergency, and a frightened Kathy started calling her mother and Robert to tell them what had happened. Robert panicked, trying to call a tow truck or a bulldozer. He was going crazy with worry, and he blamed himself every second for going on that damn business trip, leaving Katie home alone. I knew the baby was coming. He was a grown man, but he wasn't smart. Before Susan and her husband could get excited, they panicked again. They kept asking the medic what part of the road they were stuck on to help their daughter. It was getting colder in the car, and Katie was starting to freeze. She held her babies close to her heart. They just wiggled their eyes and moved their lips. The woman panicked. Will they get us out soon? And if they don't, what will happen to me and the children? The doctor said my son is weak. We'll freeze to death. Is there a lot of gas? Can we warm up the cabin? Why am I so unlucky? One or the other. And all on the same day. My husband told me to go to the maternity hospital. 3 hours had passed. It was already dark outside and still no help. Even the calm doctor became nervous. He was cursing over the radio with everyone, swearing amazed at the indifference of the utilities and officials. After all, he had reported the problem to every place he could. And then, in the middle of the road, everyone saw the headlights, a small van coming toward them. The driver of the ambulance waved his hands for help. A young man in a bulky hooded jacket climbed out of the cab and, after listening to what was going on, without any conversation began to help push the car out. They tried both backwards and forwards, but nothing. Understanding that they couldn't make it out that way, the doctor hooked the car to his van and began to pull it slowly. They had been working for half an hour, but they had finally managed to pull the ambulance out. The driver of the van had not abandoned the paramedics and the woman in labor and towed them to the hospital, because the ambulance had run out of gas. The man saw through the window how the paramedics ran out, and the woman and her children were taken to the hospital on a gurney. It was only afterwards that he waved at them from afar and drove home. It was late in the day. It was Clinton. Yes, Katie's ex-fiancé. As fate would have it, he happened to be on the deserted, snow-covered road that evening in his old van, just on his way home from delivering mail and packages. Clinton had no idea who was in the car. He helped just for fun, feeling sorry for the woman in labor and the kids who were in such a jam. The guy had a bad cold, got soaked, and fell to sleep, literally, without strength. And during the night he had a high temperature. His aging mother could not bring it down on her own. And the next day he was in the hospital ward. It turned out that he had pneumonia, and he had to stay here for a long time. Kathy and her children were examined. All was well. Her mother and father arrived and her beloved husband in the morning. There were armfuls of flowers on the windowsill, and Kathy was flooded with goodies and fruit. But the stern doctor put them down, removed the flowers and the citrus fruits too, explaining what they could and could not bring to a woman in labor. All relatives and friends were glad that everything ended so well and congratulated the mother on the birth of her children. They took the babies in their arms and were touching the babies. Kathy wouldn't let up. We should definitely find the van driver who got us out and thank him from the bottom of our hearts. After all, if it wasn't for him, we would have surely frozen there until morning. Daddy, will you help me with this? You're connected, aren't you? But there was no need to look for anyone. A nurse who entered the room and overheard Katie and her father talking involuntarily answered immediately, "Well, what's there to look for? Your savior is in the next ward with pneumonia. They brought him in last night. Everyone already knows. It's not every day it happens. You're famous now, just like in the TV series." Katie immediately jumped out of bed. "Mammy, Robert, will you stay with the babies? It's still an hour until the next feeding. I'll be right back. You can use the inner passage here. If you need me, I'm going to the toilet or I'll get scolded. I can't leave the maternity ward. I'll just say thank you to him, that's all. Well, he saved our lives, and then he got sick. He must have caught a cold." As she was, in her bathrobe and slippers, Katie crept quietly up the stairs and checked with the nurse to find out which room her savior was in. And when she got there, she was stunned. It was Clinton, ex-fiancé, first love. He saw her and wondered too. "Katie, I don't believe it. What are you doing here and dressed like that?" The woman sat down on a chair. "So that's who saved me yesterday with the kids." "Oh my gosh. Thank you, Clinton. From the bottom of my heart, if it weren't for you, we would have frozen to death with my babies in the snowy road. Are you okay? The nurse said you have pneumonia?" Clinton waved his hand. "It's nothing. I got too cold and wet yesterday. It'll pass. It's better now. I'm glad I helped you, Kathy, to make up for that nasty thing I did. You know, I regretted it 100 times. I couldn't make a family. I kept looking for someone like you, but I never found one. and I congratulate you on the birth of children. So you found love after all. Katie responded, Yes, Clinton, I found, and I'm married to a very good and decent man named Robert. And I'm not angry with you for a long time, although I could not get over the betrayal. But it's all in the past now. Get well. I wish you to meet your love, get married, create a family. Clinton just waved his hand. I've already given up on my personal life. I wish I had time to save up for my mother's surgery. She has a bad heart. She needs a bypass surgery. And I seem to be saving a little bit, but I'm still not even halfway there. Well, that's my problem. Don't worry about it. Happy birthday, Kathy. And I'm sorry about everything. Kathy came into the room subdued and said sadly, Do you know who saved me yesterday? Who was the truck driver? You'll never guess. That's Clinton, my ex-fiancé. That's how it is in life. I still can't believe it. He's so different. He's nothing like he used to be. He must have had a really rough life. Susan immediately sighed. Wow, I guess he's not completely scoundrelly, and he's capable of good deeds. Come on, Charles, let's go see him. We'll thank him for our daughter and grandson, and let the young parents be alone. Robert suddenly felt a painful prick of jealousy, did not expect this from himself, and with a strain in his voice asked, What have you been talking about for so long, Kathy? I'm terribly jealous of you. You know I won't give you up to anybody, just so you know. Do you still love him? The woman laughed and clung to her husband. Love her. Don't get yourself worked up and don't make up nonsense. You are my happiness and my children, and I don't need anyone else. I loved Clinton a lot. It's true, but that was a long time ago. It was only with you that I understood that a woman is only truly happy with someone who takes care of her. I even felt sorry for Clinton living with his sick mother, raising money for her surgery. He does not have a normal job and no personal life. He seems to blame himself for everything, but I pity him all the same. The babies woke up and started to croak funny, looking for breasts with their lips and crying. Robert took Bradley in his arms and rocked him while Kathy nursed Leslie. The man admired how beautiful a woman breastfeeding a baby was. The baby smacked and grunted funny, and Katie was soothed with emotion. She wanted to kiss that funny little nose and not let it go anywhere. Susan and Charles checked on Clinton, had a heart-to-heart talk. They forgot old grudges and forgave each other. At a family council, they decided to help his sick mother and pay for her operation. They got there in time, everything went well, and the elderly woman began to recover. And Charles got the man a job as a manager because he had a business acumen. Slowly, Clinton's personal life also improved. He met a simple and modest woman, Miranda, who worked as a clerk in a supermarket. Probably only after that conversation with Kathy Clinton and the soul let her go. Stopped dreaming of a possible meeting or looking for the same as she. He remembered his mistakes well, so he did not lie to his fiancée and told it like it was. Clinton enjoyed eating Miranda's soup and pies and didn't notice the woman's fullness and red cheek bumps at all. They sometimes walked with Kathy and Robert to the park with the children, and the women quickly became friends, discussing recipes and other feminine things. Miranda adored kids, and she enjoyed playing with the little ones. They, too, cheerfully hummed to her and held out their hands, sensing the good man. With Miranda's arrival, Robert calmed down and stopped being jealous of his Kathy. He was proud of his extended family. The Green family's acquaintances and longtime pals marveled at how fates had intertwined. Holy people helping Katie's ex-fiancé and his mother, becoming friends, and his mother becoming friends, and communicating as if nothing had happened. But Kathy thought otherwise. It's just everyone should be given a second chance, because all of us at an hour do ugly and obscene things that are so embarrassing later. The main thing is to realize them and change, to be able to ask for forgiveness and forgive. Just stay human. That's the secret.